that is just one of the anecdotal stories. But what happened was is that there was a lot of anger in Utah over these people coming through Utah who supposedly had been a party to both the Joseph Smith murder and the Crotty Pratt murder. It's absolutely not true. Nobody in the party was part of that. But they came through Salt Lake, realized it was not a friendly place, and got out of there as fast as they could, and they camped out in a place in southern Utah called Mount Meadows. And while to refresh, it was a beautiful green meadow to get their cattle fed, and there was pure water there. While they were there, supposedly a band of Indians came upon them and started shooting at them, and so they circled their wagons, which is the way they did it, and it became a siege of about 3 to 4 days where these people had no water, and their food was running out. And so eventually one of the Mormon leaders from that area came forward with a white flag and told them that he would lead them to safety, but they would have to leave their wagons behind, all their livestock, take the children, and he would walk them out of this little valley. I've been there. It's quite a shallow valley, but it does have a little bit of a depression in it, and he would walk them to safety. As they were walking out of this situation, several of them had been killed during the fighting that had gone on. Every person that walked out had a Mormon man walking with them, escorting them out of this valley. And on a signal that was given by this leader, they all turned and shot the person next to them. And they shot everyone in the wagon train and killed everyone in the wagon train except for 17 children who were what they call of an age that they felt probably wouldn't remember what had happened or be able to tell the story. And those children were taken and kind of adopted into Mormon homes. Later on, the relatives of the people in this wagon train hired some Pinkerton men to come to Utah and find each of those children, and they all were eventually reclaimed and taken back to their families. But the spin the church put out was that it was the Indians who had done this, and there's ample evidence. There's been a couple of very, very well-researched books written in the last decade about it. But there were some Indians involved in it, but there were a lot of Mormon men who dressed up like Indians. And so it was definitely instituted by members of the church. Now the controversy is whether Brigham Young knew about this and directed it. There is a lot of evidence that he did. There is not total absolute proof. But he did meet with the Indians who were involved in this incident 3 days before it happened. And so, and there's other proofs too. So that was one of the more horrific things. And this last week when they talked about the shootings in Virginia, the press kept saying it's the largest mass shooting that's ever happened in America, and that is inaccurate. It probably was the largest one done by a single person, but the largest mass shooting in American history was Mountain Meadows Massacre, and it happened in 1857. And coming out on June 22nd is a movie called September Dawn, starring John Voight, and it's the story of Mountain Meadows Massacre. And I've been told that it's pretty well, that it's historically accurate, and that's about all I know about it, except I've seen some trailers on it that looks pretty interesting. So if that interests you at all, that's coming out sometime. I've been trying to find out what theater it's going to be in Portland. I haven't been able to find that yet. I'm going to talk now about, last time I covered a lot of my background and a lot of history of the church, which I've just glossed over now. But so today I thought I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the doctrine of Mormonism. Now the basic core plan, the doctrine of what they call the plan of salvation, is that we existed as spirit children in heaven. There's no real definition of what that heaven was or what it was like, but that we lived there as cogent, cognizant beings, but we didn't have a physical body. And that the earth was created so that we could come here, gain a physical body, because it was only with a physical body that we could learn the things that we needed to learn and be tested to see if we were worthy to come back into the presence of God when we die. And so you come to earth, and you, if you're lucky, you find out about the Mormon church and get to know the truth about all things and get involved in a lot of ritual and things that go on in the temple and things that go on at church that make you worthy to return to God again. And that when you die, that at some point there will be a judgment, and you will go to one of 3 different degrees of heaven. There's the celestial, the terrestrial, and the telestial. And the celestial is the highest. Only Mormons will go to the celestial. And within the celestial glory, there is an upper degree, which is reserved only for those who have gone to the temple and made certain promises and taken certain vows and then lived worthy and true to those vows and covenants that they take. So that is central, that's the central core of Mormonism, that we're here to be tested, and that those who don't have a chance to ever hear about the Mormon doctrine or the Mormon church will be given a chance in the next life to hear it, but that any baptisms of those people or participating in the ordinances that they consider mandatory has to take place on this earth. And so that is why Mormons are involved in the proxy baptisms and things that go on in the temple, because it's incumbent upon Mormons who are alive today to go to the temple and perform that work. And I'm going to read you some, well, maybe I'll do that right now. Hold on. This was an article that was in, from Reuters Press. I think it was recently. No, it's February 5th. This is from a reporter, religion editor. Pope Benedict was baptized at birth and will most likely be baptized again 1 year after his death, not by his Roman Catholic Church, but by a Mormon he never met. And then he goes on, he outlines quite well what goes on and why Mormons believe that these things are necessary. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Genghis Khan, Mao Zedong, King Herod, Al Capone have all appeared for a short time in the genealogy index of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I talked a little bit last time about the fact that they've been baptizing all of the Holocaust victims. They got a hold of the records of the Holocaust victims and have baptized them. The Jews have tried for 10 years now to get them to stop this. The church has promised on 3 different occasions to stop it, and they have tried. And they've gone in and purged out of the records that the public can see as many of those names as they know about and can do, but it doesn't change what the ordinances and the temple work that they've performed for those people. They don't go in and nullify what they believe are valid things they did for the Jews, but they will take their names off of the public record that any genealogist who goes to any genealogy library in the church can find. And it just goes on and on. I mean, every important historical figure in the world's history has been baptized in the temple. Quick question, because I've got very little time. Yeah.
Does that mean that all the people that are on the genealogy of the Mormons have been baptized?
Well, I'm sure there's probably a lot that haven't yet, but that's the goal. And the doctrine is that these people in the next life, as cogent beings, will have a choice as to whether they want to accept it or not. But that the Mormon doctrine specifically states that it has to be done on earth by a living person. There's no baptizing. There is a scripture that says there's no baptizing in heaven, or no marriage in heaven, I guess. So this not only includes baptizing, but it includes marrying people for eternity and having them what they call sealed to their children, which means they're a family unit all sealed together. I don't understand this myself, but in this article he says, well, I don't understand it now, but they've done it, for 40 years. I went to the temple and did some of that